We are starting you off this year with comparing and rounding decimals. This is your first set of notes that you'll be taking in the evening. You've had some decimals in the past, but mostly it's dealt with money. So now we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about decimals, how to round them, and how to compare to see which decimals are larger or smaller. On your notes here, number 1 says, if you're going to compare or round decimals, you're going to find the place value you want, or the rounding digit, and look at the digit to the right of it. So let's review what place value means. For place value, we are looking at, as you have learned in the past, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, and it just keeps going up. We're also going to be looking at the decimals this year. So anything to the right of a decimal spot is going to have a label with a THS on it. It's like you see here, THS. Now, how do we remember what goes where to the right of the decimal? Well, when we're looking at our place values, you'll notice that if you start with the 1 spot right here, to the left of ones is tens, we all know that. To the right of ones is tenths. Okay. Now I have 2 spots to the right of my ones is hundreds, or 2 spots to the left, I'm sorry, of ones is hundreds. 2 spots to the right is hundredths. 3 spots to the left is thousands. 3 spots to the right is thousandths. And so on and so forth. So we would end up with millions and millionths down here on the right. When we're saying our number, the last words that we're speaking about with the number ends with whatever number that's not a 0 and its place value. So in this case, I'd have 1,342,365 and 1,427 ten-thousandths, since the 7 is in the ten-thousandths spot. Okay, so that's a little review of place value, and you're going to have this to look at for now while you're doing your homework. So when we're rounding, we want to find the rounding digit, the place value that you want, and then look at the digit to the right of it. And if it's 5 or more, we're going to round up in our rounding digit. If it's less than 5, we're not going to change the rounding digit, but we are going to get rid of all the digits to the right of it. Okay? All right. So let's take a look at rounding to the tenths spot. Okay? Rounding to the tenths. First thing we want to do is identify where our tenths are. I'm going to do these first 2 examples for you, and you're going to do the second 2 on your own. So rounding to the tenths, I need to find my tenths spot, and that is 1 spot to the right of my ones. So there's the 10th there in example 1, and here's the 10th in example 2. So for number 1, I'm going to look at the spot to the right of my place value. My place value is tenths, and the spot to the right is hundredths, and it's a 3. So that's less than 5, and I am going to just drop this digit off and leave the 1 the same. So this is going to become 14 and 1/10. For problem number 2, I still want to look at the tenths spot. That's what I'm rounding to. So I'm going to go 1 digit to the right. That digit's more than 5, so I'm going to add 1 to my tenths spot. This becomes 8 and 1/10. All right? Now on number 3, I'll give you a little hint here. You are going to be looking at the 10th spot, which is the first digit to the right of the decimal. And you're going to use the number next to it to round and ignore the other 2 numbers. So if I were rounding to the hundredths spot, if you take a look at your notes, you'll see in your place value chart that the hundredths spot is 2 digits to the right of the decimal. That makes number 9 here. And for problem 6, it's also going to be a 9 there. Please remember, guys, you need to complete number 3 and number 4 here on your own. I'm going to do 5 and 6 with you. You're going to do 7 and 8 on your own. I would like to see you showing your work by underlining the place value that you're rounding to. Okay? So you're going to underline the place value you're rounding to. That's number 9 here and number 9 over here on number 6. So to say this number, I would say 1 and 95, and this is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths spot. So 1 and 95 thousandths. Looking to the right of the digit where I'm rounding, here's my hundredth spot. Looking to the right, I have a 5. Anything 5 and greater adds 1 to my rounding digit. So if I add 1 to 9, I get 10. So when I write this out, it's going to be 1 and 10 hundredths. I'm going to keep this 0 because the 9 became a 10, so I keep that as 10. But I drop the 5 off. I no longer put a 5 on the end. For number 6, I look at my hundredths spot, and now I am rounding with the 8. So I want to round to the hundredth spot. So I'm going to look at the 8 and see whether that hundredth spot needs to stay the same or go up. My 8 tells me it has to go up. So I'm going to add 1 to the 9. That becomes 10. And if I do that, then I have to add 1 to the 10th spot, and that also becomes 10. And if that's 10, then I have to add 1 to the ones spot, which makes that a 6. So let's talk about this. So we have 345 and 99 hundredths, and we have to add a hundredth onto that 9 spot. Okay, that makes it 10. But 10 doesn't fit in that single spot. So now we have 10 up here. Okay, so we've changed the 9 to a 10, but now we have a 9 and a 1 in this 10th spot, which also makes 10. So we're going to have to change this to a 0 and put the 1 over here for our new 10. Now we're going to have to add 1 to the ones place to get the 6. So this becomes 346 and 0 hundredths. We keep those zeros because we're rounding to the hundredths spot, so we have to have a number in the hundredths spot, but we can drop the rest of it off. Okay, I want you to go ahead and try rounding 7 and 8 to the hundredths spot also. Now, once you've done that, we're going to look at some word problems and try those examples. If you make $289.88 in a week, what is that to the nearest dollar? Now, when they talk about the nearest dollar, how many dollars is a nearest dollar? It doesn't say nearest $10. It doesn't say nearest $100. It says nearest dollar, so that is going to be the nearest $1. And if it's the nearest $1, that's the ones spot. So I need to round to the ones spot, and I need to take a look at the number to the right of the one spot and decide if I'm going to go up or stay the same. To the right of the ones spot is an 8. So that tells me I need to round up. This is going to become 200, and after 89 comes 90. $290 in a week, rounded to the nearest $1. For number 10, we have 228 students going on a field trip. each bus holds 30 students. How many buses will you need to take the students, and how is this problem related to rounding? Okay, well, we could divide or we could estimate. If we want to estimate, about how many students estimating are there? Well, we would have to take a look at 228, and that's pretty close to 230. So that's rounding. We're rounding up. We're real close to 230, not so close to 220. So we're going to round up to 230, and then we could either divide it out, or we could say 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240. Okay, and we know that by rounding, we're probably going to need this next bus because we have more than 210 students. So we have 8 buses that we need. I don't know if I'm spelling that right. Maybe it's just an ES. Buses. Y'all can tell me tomorrow when you come in if I spelled it right or not. And how is this problem related to rounding? We need to estimate to a whole number of students so that if we have 228 in the middle, does that round up to 240 or down to 210? Okay? So you could write that out. You would just write your answer out here. Now, I'm going to give you your secret question for the day right now. Your secret question: what is your favorite college team, or who? So I'm going to put a star down here below the 12. My favorite college team. Fave college team. Mine is LSU. All right. So put your secret question in there. You're going to finish the rest of those word problems. And now we're going to go on to the last page of your notes where we are comparing the decimals. When you're comparing two decimals to find out which one is bigger, you're going to look at the whole numbers first. So if I look at these two whole numbers in number 14, I see I've got 223 and 223. Okay, so those are the same. That's not going to tell me which one is bigger. So now I have to look at the place values behind the decimal. I'm going to start with the tenths place. So I can basically use my finger or use something to cover up the hundredths on down. So looking first at the tenths place, I have a 3 here and a 4 there. So according to my tenths spot, 223 and 4 tenths is larger than 223 and 39 hundredths. For number 15, I'm going to look at my whole numbers. I have a 1 here and a 1 there. Okay. Next, I'm just going to look at my decimal spots. So starting with the tenths, I have a 0 here and a 1 there. The 1 is larger, so I am going to go ahead and put my larger symbol in there. So 1 and 1/10 is larger than 1 and 9/10,000ths. I want you to go ahead and complete 16 and 17. Remember that you need to have these notes out tomorrow when you come in and start your warm-up. You're going to need to have that out on the desk so I can come around and take a quick look and make sure you have completed it. Okay, have fun.